All right, so yesterday, we are on page 10 in your notes, by the way. Page 10 in your notes. Yesterday, we learned how to find distance on a number line. And today, we're going to learn how to find distance between 2 points that are graphed on an XY axis. So when you plot points like you learned how to do in Algebra 1 and you draw a line segment in between them, we're going to be able to figure out how long that line segment is now. Our distance formula is equal to big square root sign here, big square root sign. Underneath the square root sign, we have parentheses. And then we're going to take the ordered pairs for these numbers, and we're going to take the second x, we call that x2, and we're going to minus the first x, minus x1. And then we're going to close our parentheses and square it. And then we have plus another set of parentheses, and now we're going to do the exact same thing, but with the y parts of the ordered pairs instead of the x parts. So then we have y2 minus y1. Close the parentheses and square it. Oh, you got one? Oh, right there. All right, this is really, really important. Thank you. All right. You do not have to memorize this formula, but you do have to know how to use this formula. And so that is what we are going to spend the rest of our time together today doing, is practicing using this formula. Everybody is going to need a yellow calculator. Does everybody have a yellow calculator on their desk? Or your own calculator if you have your own and you prefer to use that. All right. So let's jump right into some problems. Number 3 says find the distance on the coordinate plane. Part A, find the distance between J, 4, 3, and K, -3, -7. All right, so I'm going to let J be my point 1. So this is going to be my x1 and my y1 because every ordered pair has an x part and a y part to it. So that's my x1 and my y1. And we're going to let point K be the x2 and the y2. Now the distance from J to K we represent by writing JK with nothing over the top of it. So I have JK equals, and then a big long square root sign like this. Underneath the square root, we open up a set of parentheses. And inside the first set of parentheses, we are going to subtract the x's. We do x2 minus x1. What is the number that goes with my x2? -3. So I have -3, and then it's always minus when we find distance. We always take the first number minus the second number when we do distance. So -3 minus my x1, which is what? 4. Close my parentheses and square it. And then we have a plus sign between our parentheses. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with the y parts of the ordered pairs. So another set of parentheses, and we do y2. What is y2? -7 minus y1. What is y1? 3. And then we close the parentheses and square it. Now, before we put this hot mess into the calculator, we're going to simplify this sum using order of operations. Do you guys know PEMDAS? We're going to do PEMDAS on this before we use our calculators. And it's okay if we have to use the calculators in there a little bit, because I'm like, I don't remember when I subtract my negative numbers what I get. But we're not going to put the whole big long thing into the calculator. All right, so PEMDAS starts with P. What does the P stand for in PEMDAS? Parentheses. How many sets of parentheses do we have? We have 2 sets of parentheses. We're going to simplify each set of parentheses by itself first. What is negative 3 minus 4? Negative 7. So we have negative 7 inside the first set of parentheses. We still have the parentheses around it, and then we square it. Plus, drop that plus sign down. Now we're going to simplify the second set of parentheses, negative 7 minus 3, which gives us negative 10. Close the parentheses and square it. It is really important that you leave the parentheses around these numbers. All right, so in PEMDAS, after we do parentheses, we do what? Exponents. Do we have exponents here? Yes, we have 2 spots where we have exponents. And this is why those parentheses still being around the numbers is really important. What does it mean to square a number? Times it by itself. So if I take a number and I times it by itself, like say 5 times 5, what do I get? 25. So I take a positive number and I multiply it by itself and I get another positive number. What happens if you do a negative number times a negative number? It becomes a positive number. So when I take a negative number and I square it, I times it by itself, I should end up with a positive number. If you don't keep the parentheses around the numbers on your calculator will lie to you and give you the wrong answer. It will tell you that it's a negative number when you square it, and it's not. Almost all of the calculators do this, so you have to remember to put parentheses around negative numbers before we hit the squared button. All right, what do you get when you do negative 7 squared? 49. What about negative 10 squared? 100, yes. So then we add those 2 together, 49 plus 100, and that means underneath my radical, I have 149. And now we're going to take this and put this into our calculator to get the decimal approximation. So here's what we need to do in order to put this into our calculators. First, we need the radical symbol. To get that, we start by pushing the green second button and the x squared key. So green second button and x squared key to get the radical up on the screen. And then you put in the 149 and you hit enter. And if it doesn't give you a decimal number at that point, and it probably doesn't, you're going to hit the back and forth arrows right above the enter key. So after you hit enter, if it doesn't give you a decimal, then you hit the button right above the enter key, the back and forth arrows. And that gives us our decimal approximation. What do you get when you put this into your calculator? 12.20. Take it out to a third decimal place for me. 6. Perfect. 12.207 depending on how you round. If you truncate, it's 12.206, and if you round, it's 12.207. Absolutely fantastic. This gives us the perfect opportunity to talk about rounding in here and how many decimal places you need to give me. So in this geometry class, my preference is that you go out to 3 decimal places. That way, if the way you round is different than the way I round, our answers still match for at least 2 of those decimal places. So I want you to give me 3 decimal places on all your answers. All right, let's go try part B. Find the distance between A, -6, -4, and B, 5, 9. So we're going to let A, the -6, -4, be the x1, y1. And we're going to let B, the 5, 9, be the x2, y2. And so now the distance from A to B is equal to, and then we have our big long square root sign, parentheses underneath the square root sign, and we do x2 minus x1. What is x2? 5 minus, because it's always a minus after the first number when we do distance. I don't care whether it's distance on a number line or distance like this. After the first number, it's always a minus sign. So x2 minus, what is x1? Negative 6. So we're going to pop that inside parentheses so that I don't get confused between my minus and my negative. And then we close our parentheses and square that. And then we have a plus sign here. And then another set of parentheses. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the first set of parentheses, but now we're going to do it with the y's. So first number minus the second number. x2 minus x1 in the first parentheses, y2 minus y1 in the second set of parentheses. What is my y2? 9. And then what symbol do I have to put after the 9? Minus. Always after the first number, it's a minus. Minus my y1. What is my y1? Negative 4. So inside parentheses again with my negative 4. Close the parentheses and square it. Inside both sets of parentheses, we are minusing a negative. So what happens to both of those symbols? Turns to positive, turns to plus. So from A to B, I have this big long square root sign. And I have 5 plus 6 squared plus 9 plus 4 squared. Distance is always minus between my numbers, but when I'm minusing a negative, it'll turn to a plus. What is 5 plus 6? 11. So underneath my radical, still inside parentheses, I have 11 squared plus, what is 9 plus 4? 13 squared. All right. Let's take both of those numbers and square them. What is 11 squared? 121 plus, what is 13 squared? 169. And when we add 121 and 169 together, we get 290. So underneath my radical, I have 290. Now I need to take that and put it into my calculator. What is the square root of 290? And we're going to take that out to 3 decimal places. 17.030. If you round it, if you truncate it, it would be 17.029. I would accept either one of those as a correct answer. If you answer 17.030, I would accept that. 17.029, I would also accept. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. All right, let's keep practicing with this. Let's look at question number 4. On question number 4, we have Chelsea and Amy. Chelsea and Amy are sitting in separate cars on the Monongahela Incline. Chelsea is traveling up Mount Washington and Amy is traveling down. When the two girls notice each other, Chelsea has a horizontal distance of 212 feet from the lower station and is at a height of 151.6 feet. So I'm going to highlight that. That's important. Amy has a horizontal distance of 435.3 feet from the lower station and is at a height of 311.3 feet. What is the distance between the two girls? All right, so somehow from this information, we have to get an X and a Y for Chelsea and an X and a Y for Amy so that we have ordered pairs that we can plug into our distance formula. So here's Chelsea. When we have an ordered pair, it's the X part first and then the Y part. Does the X part tell us about left and right, or does the X part tell us about up and down? Left and right. So when I'm looking at Chelsea and trying to figure out what her x is, would the left and right, the x, be the horizontal or the height?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. So the x part for Chelsea is going to be 212.0. There's my x1. And so that means the height, 151.6, is going to be the y1. Right, so Chelsea is 212.0, comma, 151.6. You with me, Dami? And so then Amy would have an ordered pair of what? What would the x part for Amy be? 435.3, so that's going to be my x2. And what is our y2? What is Amy's y? 311.3. There's our y2. Beautiful. So we're going to find the distance from Chelsea to Amy. So from C to A equals, and we need a big long square root sign here. Even longer than that. We got some big numbers we're going to be putting in here. First set of parentheses, we do x2 minus x1. What is our x2? 435.3. So 435.3 minus my x1, which is 212. Close my parentheses and square that. And then we have plus and another set of parentheses. y2, what is y2? 311.3. What symbol do I put after the 311.3? What symbol has to come after the 311.3? Minus, yes. 311.3 minus. Minus what? 151.6. Close the parentheses and square it. Big long square root sign there. All right, so the distance from Chelsea to Amy is equal to, we're going to simplify each of our parentheses underneath the radical before we square them. All right, so this first one, 435.3 minus 212, what do we get from that subtraction? 435.3 minus 212. 223.3. 223.3. Close the parentheses and square that. Plus, now we're going to do the second set of parentheses, the 311.3 minus 151.6. What do we get from that? 311.3 minus 159.6, or sorry, 151.6. 159.7. Close the parentheses and square it. All right, so now we need to square those two numbers. We're going to end up with some really big numbers for a minute. I'm going to ask you guys for what those numbers are, but when I ask for those, it's okay to just read the numbers off the screen. You don't have to try to do place value with it. So you don't have to say what is the thousands and what is the hundreds. Let's just read the numbers off the screen as we go from left to right. When you do 223.3 squared, what do you get? 49862.89. Yes. Plus, now we're going to do the exact same thing with the 159.7. We're going to take that and square it. Go ahead and read those digits off your screen for me. 25504.09. Perfect. Then we're going to add those two enormous numbers together. Still all underneath our radical here. You should get 75366.98. And then we take that whole big long thing. We do second and x squared so that we get the radical on the screen. And then 75366.98. Enter. If it doesn't give you a decimal, then you would hit the arrows above the enter key. But if it does give you a decimal, you'll just keep that. What do we get for the square root of 75,366.98? 274.530, yes. Should we put units with that? Were there units with our numbers earlier? Yes, what kind of units should we put with that? Feet. Beautiful. All right. Let's look at number 5. Manuel wants to go snowboarding with his friend. The closest ski and snowboarding resort is approximately 20 miles west and 50 miles north of his house. Manuel picks up his friend who lives 15 miles south and 10 miles east of Manuel's house. How far away are the two boys from the resort? All right, so let's start by drawing a picture here. So I'm going to put Manuel's house on here first. And I'm going to draw a little north, south, east, west. North, south, east, west. Says the closest ski and snowboard resort is approximately 20 miles west and 50 miles north of his house. So if this is his house, 20 miles west would be this way, and then 50 miles north would be this way, right? So somewhere over here is where the ski resort is. We're going to need an ordered pair for that ski resort. It says we went 20 miles west and 50 miles north. When I'm writing an ordered pair, the x part, the first number, tells me the left-right, correct? So would that be an east-west number, or would that be a north-south number? West-east. We went 20 miles west. If I go this way on an x-axis, is that positives or negatives? Negatives. So my x part is negative 20. There's my x1. Negative 20. 50 miles north. That's my y number. Is that going to be a positive or a negative 50? Positive. We went up, so that is a positive. So that's my y1. All right, then we have Manuel's friend who lives 15 miles south and 10 miles east of Manuel's house. So back at Manuel's house, we're going to go 15 miles south, so this way, and 10 miles east, so this way. So Manuel's friend is over here somewhere. And then we need our ordered pair. Do I want the north-south number first or the east-west number first for my x?
East to west.
East to west. So what should my x be then if we're doing the east to west first?
10 miles.
10 miles, so 10. Should that be a positive 10 or a negative 10 if I'm going this way east? Positive. So there's my x2. And then it says 15 miles south, so a positive or negative 15 for the y? Negative 15 for y2. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's find this distance. Yes. You said there's somebody here? Thank you. Wait to come in here. All right, thank you. We're on page 10 in your notes. Very last problem on page 10. All right, so our distance is equal to big square root sign. We do x2 minus x1. What is x2? 10. And what symbol do we put after the 10? After the first number, we always put a minus. So 10 minus, now I need my x1. What is my x1? Negative 20. So 10 minus negative 20, parentheses around those guys, and then square it. Plus, then I need y2 minus y1. What is y2? Negative 15. What comes after the negative 15? Negative, a minus sign. Minus what? 50. Close the parentheses and square that. All right. Here, I am subtracting a negative, so that actually becomes what? Positive. So on my distance problem, I have my big square root. Inside the first set of parentheses, I have 10 plus 20 squared plus negative 15 minus 50 in the other set of parentheses, squared. What do I get when I simplify the first set of parentheses? 30. So I have 30 squared plus, what is negative 15 minus 50? Negative 65. Take that, close the parentheses, and square it. So now we're going to square both of those numbers. What is 30 squared? 900. Plus, be careful here, what happens when you square a negative number? You should get what type of number back? A positive. Make sure you put the parentheses around the negative 65 or else it will give you a negative answer and that will give you a wrong answer for the whole problem. What is negative 65 squared? 4225. So then we're going to add that to the 900. 5125. So underneath my radical, I have 5125. So we're going to pop that into our calculators now. We're going to do the square root of 5125. Remember to hit those arrows after the enter key if it doesn't give you a decimal number. 71.589. Should we put units with that? What units should we put with that? Miles. I love it. All right, we're going to do just a little bit at the top of page 11, and then we will call it a week. All right. So top of page 11. If we want to find the distance between two values on a number line, we do the absolute value of x2 minus x1. Remember, when we do distance, we're always minusing. We always minus our two numbers for distance, and it's inside the absolute value. What does absolute value do to our numbers again? Makes it positive. So after I do my subtraction, if I end up with a negative number, we force it to be positive with the absolute value. If we want to find the distance between 2 points that have xy coordinates, we do our big square root. We do x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right, last problem that we are going to do for today, number 6. You are given that C is the midpoint of A and B. So let's draw a picture. I'm going to draw my segment first. And I'm going to draw my endpoints. What are the names of the endpoints here? A and B. So A for one, B for the other. Where is C? Midpoint, so exactly in the middle. C goes exactly in the middle. Here's my midpoint. If C is exactly in the middle, then what is true about these two segments, AC and CB? They're congruent, they're the same size, so we're going to mark those with congruence marks. Find the length of AB and BC if A, -5,3, and B is 2, -8. So AB, from A over here to B, that's the whole segment, right? That is my whole segment. Is BC the whole segment? Well, how much of the whole segment is BC? Half. Yes, it's one of two congruent pieces. So this is half the segment. So first we're going to find the distance from A to B using our distance formula. And then we're going to go back in and we're going to take that answer and cut it in half to find the distance from B to C. All right, so we know our ordered pairs for A are -5, 3. So I'm going to write that over here, -5, 3. And for B, it's 2, -8. 2, -8. All right, so let's let A, -5, 3, be the x1, y1. And let's let B, 2, -8, be x2, y2. So now we're going to go from A to B is equal to, and we've got our big square root sign. First set of parentheses, x2 minus x1. What is my x2? 2. What do I put after the 2? Minus. And then what? -5. We are minusing a negative here. Pop some parentheses around that and square it. Plus y2 minus y1. What goes inside this second set of parentheses? -8 minus 3. Close your parentheses and square it. So from A to B, here where we are subtracting a negative, that's going to turn into a plus. So I would have the square root, first set of parentheses, 2 plus 5 squared plus -8 minus 3 squared. What is 2 plus 5? 7. So I have, underneath my square root, I have 7 squared plus, what is -8 minus 3? -11 squared. What is 7 squared? 49. Plus, what is -11 squared? Careful. 121. Make sure you're getting positive numbers when you square something. Even if your calculator tells you it's a negative, I need you guys to know that when you square something, it should be giving you a positive, so you write down the positive number. What is 49 plus 121? 170. So we have the square root of 170. What is the square root of 170? 13.038. There's our first answer. And then we still need from B to C. What did we say we were going to do to find BC? Cut it in half. 13.038 divided by 2 gives us what for BC? 6.519. Very nicely done. That is where we are going to stop for today. You guys have the remainder of the class time that we have right now to work on the homework that is due on Monday. Homework is due on Monday. If you need another copy of that homework, you didn't pick one up yesterday, I'll go back to that in just a second. If you did not pick one up yesterday or you just need another copy of it, very bottom paper right here in this red organizer. This paper right here is the one that is due on Monday.